Hi, and welcome to Yoga with Mac. I'm Mac, and today's practice we are going to touch grass, literally. Today's practice is going to be a low to the ground, hip opening sequence, and try to touch some grass, because I think some of us might need that. So to get started for today's practice, I would recommend grabbing a yoga block. This is probably going to be pretty important today. If you don't have a yoga block, you can always use a pillow or books. We're just going to be using our yoga block as a seat today. So you can use other things around the house that could help you to attain the same goal. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. For today's practice, we're going to start in a wide-legged child's pose. So we're going to have our toes touching underneath our butt, and we're going to spread our knees as wide as we can, as wide as feels comfortable for today. And then we're going to start to slowly come down, stretching out the arms and bringing the forehead down to the mat. And here we're just going to take some nice, gentle cleansing breaths. All together, we're going to inhale and exhale. One more time, all together, let's go ahead and inhale. And let it all out through your mouth. Exhale. We'll just hang here for a little bit. Really start to feel your body connecting to the mat. What are the different points of the body that are touching the mat that feel the most grounded? And if there's any way that we can maybe sink into the hips a little bit more and let them melt like butter. And on your next inhale, let's go ahead and come up to a seat. Here is where your yoga block is going to be important. So if you have your yoga block, go ahead and grab that now as we set up for a supported malasana or supported yogi squat. We're going to come from our child's pose. This is probably the easiest way to do it. And have our block right underneath our booty. Okay, and from here, you can kind of take one leg and then take the other leg and just kind of get into that yogi squat. If you're on your toes, if you're up here today, that's okay. Everybody's different. Everybody's stretch is going to look a little different, and this is a very intense stretch. Try to use your elbows to push out your knees. This way you can really get in through the inner thighs. And we'll bring the hands to prayer if that's available to us. And we're just going to take a few grounding breaths here. Like I said, this is an intense one, but I know that you can do it. We are touching grass, friends. I'm sure some of us need it. I know I do. Definitely been caught up in the everyday activities and the distractions of life. Definitely been scrolling a little too much lately, I feel. And I certainly do need to touch grass. And from here, we're going to add a little bit of movement here. Since if it feels right, you can drop your hand and twist open to one side. And on an inhale, you can come back to center and exhale it over to the other side. If that's something that's available to you, you can keep moving or you can just stay here in malasana. All right, let's flow, friends. So from here, we can kind of just dive forward, or you can cross your legs to a seat, remove the block. And we really probably won't be needing that for the rest of the practice. And we're going to just get into a tabletop position to get our spine nice and warmed up. We're just gonna do a few rounds of cat-cow. All right, we'll go ahead, and once we find a nice neutral spine, really pressing into the mat with the hands here, palms should be pressing into the mat. We're gonna go ahead and inhale, opening up the chest and dropping the belly to the mat. And exhale, we'll go ahead and round the spine, pressing into the mat, letting it all go. Moving with the breath here, inhale, opening through the chest, dropping the belly, and exhale, rounding through the spine. Faster now, inhale, and exhale. Inhale, and exhale. And on your next inhale, we'll come back to a neutral spine, and we're going to find our first down dog. Spread the hands a little bit wider if you need to before lifting the knees, tucking the toes, and coming into down dog. Feel free to find some movement here. I personally like to take my dog for a walk, pedaling out the feet a bit before finding a little bit of stillness before we get into our flow. On an inhale, let's go ahead and take our right leg up to the top of the mat. In between our hands, where we will find a low lunge. Knee to the floor, hips nice and square, low lunge. If it feels comfortable, you can come up, placing the hands on the top of the thigh or forearms on the top of the thigh, or even if you want to get into a nice deep stretch, maybe even get through the back here, bringing the arms up overhead. We're only here for a few breaths, so don't stress. Remember, we're grounding, we're touching grass. From here, on our next inhale, we'll transition into half splits. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna straighten out that right leg, lifting up the toes to balance on the heel, and then folding over that right leg. This is a fantastic stretch through the hamstrings to really just get everything in the lower body nice and stretched out. Sometimes you can even feel this one through the glutes, and oh, it's so good. I even sometimes like to wiggle my toes for a little bit of movement, especially if you are having a harder time settling into certain poses. Things like moving, wiggling the toes, or even the fingers sometimes really can just help to get so that you don't feel like you have to leave the pose early. But if you feel like you have to leave the pose early, if it's too much or if you have to back out a little bit, who cares? Do it. Listen to your body. Okay, and from here, we're going to come back into our low lunge, but just to get into a lizard pose. So we're going to widen the stance. We'll heel toe the right foot out to the edge of our mat to open up through the hips here. So our hands should be on the inside edge of the foot. Hope that makes sense. Hopefully you can see what's going on here. And from here, we can come down to forearms and open up through the knee. So you'll see you can even kind of push the knee out a bit with your hand if you feel the need to, or you can just let your foot drop to the outer edge of the right foot to open up the knee. Only here for a few breaths, friends. And on your next inhale, we'll go ahead and come back up to our low lunge. If we were down in the forearms, coming back to palms, heel toeing the right foot back into center to get back to that low lunge, just so that we can find enough footing to get back to down dog. So we're going to throw that right leg back to a plank and then lift the hips up to down dog. See if this down dog feels any different. Walk it out a little bit if you need to. We're not going to be here long at all, as we are going to lift the left foot up. Just step it on through to get back to low lunge on the other side. Again, if you want to stay low, having the palms on the floor, totally can. If you would like to come up, bringing the hands to the top of the thigh here on the left leg, or even lifting arms up overhead for a stretch through the back as well. All right, if your arms are up, bring them down back to the ground. Maybe just get a final few pulses in the hips here before we transition into our half splits, straightening the left leg out and folding over the knee. If you can, try to keep the chest open. But really, what's important is getting that stretch through the left hamstring here. Prepping us for our star moment pose. Not star pose. But our really big hip opener, which will be coming up soon. So make sure we are getting into those muscles, getting all the good juicy feelings and release in that low body. I'm even shaking a little bit. That's how tight my hamstring is on this side. Let me know if you're shaking too. Oh, okay. Coming forward again to our low lunge just to prep to get into our lizard. Again, we'll heel toe the foot out and dropping the knee out to the side, which is typically a result of leaning on the outer edge of the foot, as you can see here. Dropping down to forearms if that's something that we are able to do. If not, we can always stay up on palms and just really getting into the inner hip here. Even a little bit of a stretch on the outer hip as well. Lizard is a great pose. And just a few breaths. Okay. And with your breath, go ahead and come back up, transitioning into that low lunge again, just to come back to our down dog. Again, quick plank before we lift the hips into down dog. Again, feel free to play here. Feel some movement through the body. And this down dog should feel different from the very first one, since we've opened up our body a little bit and have added some movement. Yeah, such a great stretch. And we're going to come forward, bringing ourselves to our knees into a nice kneeling pose here as we prepare to get into frog pose. Frog, I'm going to have us come to the wide edge of the mat. And we're going to come to a nice tabletop as we open up the knees. So we'll spread our knees as far as we can. We're going to want to keep our feet alive here by flexing them to protect the knees in this pose. And for some of us, this right here might be enough. If you want to intensify the stretch, you can come down to the forearms. Even widening the knees a bit more if you need more intensity. But that's not required by any stretch of the imagination. Hopefully you can still see me. And a few breaths here. This shouldn't feel too bad. We've already done Malasana. We've done our yogi squat. We've opened up through the hips a little bit here. So this should start to feel a little good. A little bit of a release here. And we'll just hang here for a little bit. Again, feel free to wiggle those toes if you need to add some movement to these poses. And just take some deep breaths, breathing into the inner hips so that we can really release and guide our breath to the parts of the body that need it the most. I know it's tough, but you got it. Really focus on the different parts of the body that are touching the mat, and if there's any place that we can melt more into the mat. Can we ground our hands and our forearms even further to feel a connection with the earth? Our knees, our feet. These are all points that we can focus in on to ground even further, to touch grass. inhale in, let's go ahead and come back up as we bring the feet together to come back to a wide-legged child's pose if that's what you prefer, or just a child's pose. I'm going to just take a regular old knees together child's pose, or feet together, not a super wide-legged stance, so that my inner thighs can kind of reset from that very large stretch. Quick reset here. Before we come on to our backs, and we'll hug our knees into our chest once we get onto the back. Maybe roll it out a little bit, get a nice massage through the low back. Rolling the knees in a circle, maybe one way and then the other way. Before we get into our figure 4 pose. So we'll go ahead and take our right leg, crossing the ankle over the knee of the left leg, and bringing our hands, threading them through to pull the left leg in, getting a nice stretch through the right outer hip. Could even kind of swivel to one side or the other with the legs to see if you can get an even deeper stretch. As we are winding down and reaching the end of our practice. And on your next big breath in, we'll go ahead and flip it on over to the other side, taking the left ankle, crossing it over the right knee, and hugging the right knee into the chest. Well, toward the chest. Probably won't get to the chest. To open up through the left outer hip. Again, finding a nice little swivel if you need to move to the left or the right a little bit with the lower body to really get into the glute and outer hip. I don't know if you guys can hear all the dogs barking and the birds chirping. Everything's coming back to life. And we can come out of our figure 4 pose. Again, maybe swivel side to side, circle the knees. And let's get into our happy baby pose. Coming to take the insides of the soles of the feet or the outside of the soles of the feet, whatever feels best for you, whatever's available for you. Maybe you take just big toes with peace fingers. If you're feeling really up to the challenge today, maybe the legs just open and the hands don't even touch the feet at all. It's totally fine. We just want to find a nice final stretch here before we get into our Shavasana. Again, it's okay to find movement here. a nice little rocking baby if you need, or to stay still. This is your practice. It is what you make of it. And let's go ahead and exhale, coming out of our happy baby, bringing the feet down to the mat. And exhaling the legs out to our Shavasana. Opening up our body, feeling the different sensations of what we just did, what we just accomplished. You have officially touched grass. Congratulations. Closing the eyes here, starting to notice different parts of the body that maybe still feel a little tense, and focusing on melting those parts of the body into the mat, really relaxing with every inhale and exhale. Again, today's practice was all about staying low to the ground and reconnecting with grounding movements to keep our mind steady. See if you can take this time for yourself to really focus on melting into the mat, feeling supported by the earth. As we inhale, start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. No need to bring the eyes open yet, but begin to gently make your way to a nice seat, maybe rolling over to one side before coming up. And if you wish to open the eyes, you can, or you can keep them closed. Totally up to you. Like I said, this is your practice. And I am so happy that you shared this time with me. And I hope that you take this energy, this grounding energy of touching grass, bring it out into the world through the rest of your day. Namaste, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.